Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding a Mishnah Berurah Chelik Hey, where we are on Pei Vav Amud Aleph. We're continuing Hilchos Pesach. We're in the midst of Siman Taf Ayin Hey, discussing the laws of the Seder, and we are continuing in Seif Aleph. Seif Aleph is a lengthy Seif. We are on the top line of Pei Vav Amud Aleph in the words of the Mechaber, the words of the Shulchan Aruch. We're going to pick up near the end of the top line by the word va'achar kach. So until now, we've gotten through the point of the Seder where we've eaten the matzah, we've eaten the maror. So moitzi matzah, maror, korech. That's what we're up to. We're now up to korech. Says the Mechaber, va'achar kach noitel matzah shlishis. After you complete the eating of the maror, you take the third matzah. And remember, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you have three matzahs on the ka'ara. You have the Kayin, the Levi, and the Yisrael. So you have the top matzah, and the middle matzah is the broken matzah. And you've used both of those matzahs now for moitzi matzah. We said that you eat a kazayis from the top matzah and a kazayis from the middle matzah. So you've used the top matzah and the middle matzah for the mitzvah of achilas matzah. Now you have the third matzah. Now remember, when we made the bracha of Hamaitzi Lechem in the Aretz, we held on to all three matzahs. So the bottom matzah was one of the matzahs of the Lechem Mishnah. On Yom Tov, we need Lechem Mishnah. The Lechem Mishnah was either the top whole matzah and the bottom whole matzah, or maybe the prusa, according to some shittas, the broken matzah was part of the Lechem Mishnah. But we definitely held on to the bottom matzah, and we held on to it to use it as Lechem Mishnah. So we already, so to speak, used it for a mitzvah. Now that we used it for a mitzvah, we want to do another mitzvah with it. So we're going to use that bottom matzah for korech. So that's why the Shulchan Aruch says, v'achar kach noitel matzah shlishis. After eating the maror, you take the third matzah, u'baitzei mimena, and you break a piece off of it, v'karcha im hamaror, and you make a sandwich using that matzah and maror, the toivla b'charoises, and you dip it into the charoises. Now the Ramah says, Haga, v'yesharim dein l'tavloi. There are those that say that you do not dip it into charoises, and we'll discuss this in the Mishnah Berurah. V'chein hu b'minhagim, and the Ramah says that this was brought down in the minhagim, not to dip the korech into charoises. V'chein re'isi noihagin, and the Ramah says that he has seen people use that minig not to dip the korech into charoises. I believe most people nowadays, our minig is to dip it into charoises. V'omer, and then, so now you have your sandwich, you have your korech sandwich, you have a kazayis of matzah and a kazayis of maror, and you made them together into a sandwich, you dipped it into the charoises. V'omer, and now you say, zecher lamigdash kehillel, that this sandwich of korech that we're eating, the matzah and the maror together, are a zecher, they're a remembrance of what the Hillel would do during the time of the Beis HaMikdash. And we'll discuss that in greater detail in the Mishnah Berurah. V'oichlan b'yachad b'haseba. And you eat the korech, you eat the matzah and the maror together, and you eat it b'haseba, because you're being yotzeh, according to Hillel, this would be the way you would be yotzeh in the mitzvah of al-achilas matzah. Hillel held that the proper way to be mekayim the mitzvah of matzah and of maror was to eat them together. And of course, when you eat the matzah for the mitzvah of achilas matzah, you have to eat it b'haseba. So the korech is eaten b'haseba. Now let's break over here, because this is already quite a bit that we said. And let's take a look in the Mishnah Berurah. Let's go to the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Tezvav, on the third line of the Mishnah Berurah on Pei Vav Amud Aleph. So the Shulchan Aruch said that you take the matzah shlishis, you take the third matzah, kedei l'kayim mitzvah b'shloshtam. We had three matzahs on the ka'ara, and we want to use all three matzahs for a mitzvah. So we used the top matzah and the prusa for achilas matzah, and now we're going to use the third matzah for korech. Ois katan tezayin, v'karcha im hamaror. We make a sandwich out of the matzah and of the maror. Says the Chavetz Chaim, v'tzarech kazayis matzah v'kazayis maror. When we make the korech and we make this sandwich, we need a kazayis of matzah and a kazayis of maror. V'tam krichazu, the reasoning why we make this sandwich, why do we eat this korech by the Seder? Kedei lotze stas Hillel. This was in order to fulfill the opinion of Hillel, the Svirale, who held the krad al matzos u'merorim yochluhu. We have a pasuk in Seif Bamidbar that talks about the carbon pesach, and it says al matzos u'merorim yochluhu. You would eat the carbon pesach together with matzah and maror. And Hillel understood that pasuk to mean bahadi hadadi mashma. The implication of that pasuk, that you eat the carbon pesach al matzos u'merorim together with matzahs and maror, the implication to Hillel was that the matzah and the maror should be eaten together. Al matzos u'merorim, with matzah and maror. The matzah and the maror are together. So in order to fulfill this opinion of Hillel, that's why we make a Korech sandwich and we have the matzah and the maror together. When we call makom, however, lotzeis rak bazeh yedei achilas matzah v'achilas maror I efsher bazman hazeh afilu lehillel. Here's a cute thing. You would wonder, if we want to fulfill the requirement of Hillel, so why do we have to eat a kazayas of matzah alone and then eat a kazayas of maror alone and then eat a Korech sandwich? Why do we just eat the Korech sandwich? We'll eat the Korech sandwich together. We're eating a kazayas of matzah. We're eating a kazayas of maror. So we definitely fulfilled the requirement to eat a kazayas of matzah and a kazayas of maror, and we'll eat them together, so that will fulfill the das of Hillel, who says to eat them together. Why do we have to double up? Why do we have to eat them alone and then eat them together? So the Chavetz Chaim explains that even according to Hillel, Bizman hazeh, when we do not have a Beis Hamikdash, Bizman hazeh, you cannot really be mekayim the mitzvah of matzah and maror by eating them together in a sandwich. Why not? The cave on the maror bizman hazeh the leka pesach einoi rak midrabanan. The halacha is that the chiyuv, the obligation to eat maror on Pesach, is only a chiyuv midaraisa when you have a carbon pesach. When you don't have a carbon pesach, there's only a chiyuv derabanan to eat maror. Oh, so during the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when we had a carbon pesach, so then matzah is a chiyuv daraisa and maror is a chiyuv daraisa. Nowadays, when we don't have a Beis Hamikdash and we don't have a carbon pesach, the matzah that we eat is a chiyuv daraisa. We have a biblical obligation to eat matzah, but the chiyuv of achilas maror is only a derabanan. That creates an issue. V'alkein, therefore, kisheyoichle b'yachad, when you eat the matzah and the maror together, asi tam maror, the taste of the maror comes, umevatalo tam matzah, and it nullifies the taste of the matzah, shehu midaraisa afilu bizman hazeh, which is a chiyuv daraisa bizman hazeh. Since nowadays we're dealing with a chiyuv daraisa and a chiyuv derabanan, we cannot eat the derabanan maror together with the daraisa matzah, because the taste of the maror nullifies, it negates the taste of the matzah, and the matzah is a chiyuv daraisa. We cannot allow a chiyuv derabanan to negate the tam of the matzah, which is a chiyuv daraisa. Then we wouldn't be mekayim the mitzvah of matzah properly. So since nowadays we're dealing with the daraisa and the derabanan, we cannot eat them together to be yotzeh the mitzvah of matzah and maror, even according to Hillel. When Mishum said, for this reason, tzarich lecho mitchila kalecha b'fnei atzmai. That's why first, by mitzi matzah and by maror, first we have to eat a kazayas of matzah alone to fulfill the mitzvah daraisa of achilas matzah. Then we have to eat a kazayas of maror alone to fulfill the chiyuv derabanan of achilas maror. And then we can eat them together in a sandwich as a zeicher to the shita of Hillel. Then we eat them together to make a remembrance for the days when we had a Beis Hamikdash, and we brought a carbon pesach, and then when we had a carbon pesach, when the matzah was a daraisa and the maror was a daraisa, and then, according to Hillel, the way you fulfilled the mitzvah of matzah and maror was by eating the matzah and the maror together in a sandwich. So just to be clear, by moitzi matzah, we eat a kazayis of matzah, we eat the mitzvah say daraisa of achilas matzah. By maror, we eat a kazayis of maror, we mekayim the mitzvah together in a sandwich. That's a zeicher. That's as a remembrance for the time that we had the Beis Hamikdash. And the shita of Hillel was that when you have a Beis Hamikdash, so you have a chiyuv daraisa of matzah and a chiyuv daraisa of maror, then you can eat them together. Then we don't have to worry about the taste of one is a derabanan and one is a daraisa. The one that's a derabanan, if it would negate the taste of the matzah that's a daraisa, we can't put the derabanan up against the daraisa and let it negate the taste of the daraisa. Ice cotton yud zayin. The Shulchan Aruch said the tovla b'charoises that you dip the korech sandwich in charoises. Shaharei krichazu hizechel lemigdash kehillel. Because again, why are we doing this? We're doing this as a zecher to the way Hillel was mekayim the mitzvah of maror in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. He ate it together in a sandwich. The Hillel hayu mekayim mitzvahs charoises b'mar zesha b'kricha. So 100% Hillel during the time of the Beis Hamikdash, he ate matzah and maror together to be mekayim the mitzvah of matzah and the mitzvah of maror. He certainly dipped it in charoises because Hillel also agreed that you need charoises. He didn't eat any other maror other than the sandwich. And by the korech, the Chavetz Chaim says it's also proper to shake off the charoises, like we said earlier, where we said that you're supposed to shake the charoises off of the maror. I brought down then from Reb David Feinstein Shlita, who says that since we don't submerge the maror fully in the charoises, you don't have to shake it off, because we don't have to worry that the charoises is going to negate the merirus, the bitterness of the maror. We only dip it in. So too by the korech, where we're only dipping it in, you don't have to shake it off. Then the Ramah said, the Yeshayimrim de'ein l'tavloi, that there are those that say that we do not dip the korech sandwich in charoises. Says the Chavetz Chaim, is cutting yudches, de'ein l'tavloi, taimam, the reason is, shakrar kiyam misas charoises, petibel rishon. Let's not get carried away. We already were mekayim the mitzvah of maror by maror, and we dipped that maror in charoises. So now when we're making a zecher for Hillel, do we have to dip it into charoises again? We also don't have to worry that we need the charoises in order to dull the bitterness somewhat, because otherwise the maror is so strong that it might be dangerous. Over here, we don't have to worry about that by korech, because you're eating it together with matzah. So if the acidity of the maror is too strong, it will be somewhat taken down by the matzah, and you don't need charoises in order to protect you from the eris of the maror. And that's why he says there are those that had the meaning that they did not dip the korech sandwich in charoises. The chener isi. Now again, I was cutting your test. The Ramah said that that's the minig that he saw was not to dip the korech in charoises. Ayin ba'achronim shehiskimu de'ikar kedeya harishayna. The achronim seem to have reached a consensus that the ikar, the main way to comport yourself, is according to the first opinion that we do dip the korech in charoises. However, everyone should follow the minig that their place has. I believe most of us have the minig that we do dip the korech in charoises. Now, this is a very interesting thing. The Shulchan Aruch said over here that before you eat the korech sandwich, v'aymer zecher lemigdash kehillel, you should say the phrase in the Haggadah, zecher lemigdash kehillel, that this is a zecher, it's a remembrance to the opinion of Hillel. Kach haya Hillel oiseh bizman shehamigdash haya kayim. This is what Hillel used to do when we had a Beis Hamikdash. He would make a sandwich out of matzah and maror. And the Shulchan Aruch says we should say this, we should recite this paragraph before we eat the korech. Says the Chavetz Chaim and V'aymer ayin bir halacha. He sends you over to the bir halacha. So let's take a look at this very interesting bir halacha. Dibur hamaskil v'aymer zeichel hamikdash. Says the Chavetz Chaim, kosher. This is very schwer to me. The Chavetz Chaim says I have a strong question on this. Haloy amira zu have a hefsik bein bracha lekricha. This amira, this recitation of the paragraph of zeichel hamikdash kehillel is a hefsik. You're interrupting with dibur, with speech, which is always considered a significant hefsik between the bracha of alachilas matzah and the bracha of alachilas maror and the korech. Now, we said earlier, and we're going to say it again in this Seif, the Mechaber is going to make the point. Let's read it inside in the Bir Halacha. The Mechaber himself is going to conclude And he's going to say in this very sif, in the next words that we didn't read yet, she'ein lo l'hasiach, that you should not be mesiach das between when you make the bracha of al achilas matzah and the bracha of al achilas maror and the eating of the korech. And I said earlier that we should announce before Motzi Matzah and before Maror, we should tell the people sitting around the table that when we make the bracha of al achilas matzah and the bracha of al achilas maror, we should have in mind that those brachas go on the korech as well. So now we're going to make a hefsik. Now we're going to be mafsik b'dibur, and we're going to speak out zeichel lemigdash kehillel. Chavetz Chaim says this seems odd. The Mechaber himself said kedei shetala berachas achilas. We shouldn't make a hefsik. We shouldn't be mesiach das, so that the brachas should go on the korech. V'doichik loymar the gam amira zu have a mi'inyan asuda kamoi toil brich. The Berurah says you might be tempted to tell me that zeichel lemigdash kehillel does not constitute a hefsik. We know we have a concept that when you say something which is a tzarech of the suda, for instance, like the Gemara says, toil brich, when somebody says, take a piece and make a bracha. So you're giving somebody a piece, he's ready, he washed it, he's ready to eat. You say toil brich, that doesn't constitute a hefsek, because that's a requirement for the suda. It's me'inyan suda. So maybe you'll say, this recitation of zeichel lemigdash kehillel is tzarech hasuda. It's a part of the nusach of the seder, and maybe that's me'inyan suda. Chavetz Chaim says he doesn't like that. That's a doichik loymar. It's a bit of a doichik. You're pushing the envelope to say that this is a tzarech suda. It's not a tzarech. You don't need to say zeichel lemigdash kehillel in order to eat the korech. You know why you're reading the korech. You want to read it. You want to look in the Haggadah, and you want to have it in mind. You want to have it in Kavanah. Go ahead, but you have to say it. You're going to say that the recitation is tzarech hasuda. The Chavetz Chaim says that's a doichik, and the Chavetz Chaim continues. The Chavetz Chaim says, I didn't find a single paisik that has this nusach that the Mechaber brings down and says that you should say it. Rak kasvu, the paiskim just right. The kri kazu, who's zeichel lemigdash. The paiskim right. Why do we eat korech? Because it's a zeichel lemigdash. But they don't write the nusach and say that you should say it before you eat it. Avaloi iskiru sheyoymar zeichel lemigdash. V'ulai lav dafka kasav ha-mechaber. The Chavetz Chaim throws out the possibility that maybe that's not really what the Mechaber meant. V'oimer v'oichlan. He didn't really mean that you should say zeichel lemigdash and then eat the korech. Elo shetzarech mitchila lahaschel lechel. Rather, maybe the Mechaber meant that first you should start eating the korech, v'hakakach yomer hagadazu, and then you should say zeichel lemigdash. V'lulei mitztafina. And the Chavetz Chaim says, if not that I was afraid. In other words, the Chavetz Chaim treated the words of the Mechaber, the words of the Shulchan Aruch, with great reverence and great trepidation. And he says, V'lulei demistafina, if not that I was fearful, hava amina, I would have thought that tzarech loymar b'Mechaber, that what the Mechaber really should say, the proper text of the Shulchan Aruch should be, V'toivla b'charoises, you take the korech, you dip it in charoises, zeicher lemigdash kehillel, as a zeicher, as a remembrance for what Hillel did in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. V'kilashaina shas v'chala paiskim, like the Gemara in Pesachim says on Kuf Tes Vav Amud Aleph, and like the paiskim write. But the word v'oimer, if you look in our text over here in the Mechaber, it says over here, v'toivla b'charoises, that's by me, it's on the second line. The toivla b'charoises, you should dip the korech in charoises. Then we have the Haggad, then we have the Ramah. Let's skip the Ramah. The oimer, and you should say zeichel lemigdash kehillel. The Chavetz Chaim is throwing out the possibility that this word v'oimer was put here erroneously. Maybe it's not supposed to say v'oimer. Maybe it's just supposed to say the toivla b'charoises. You should dip the korech in charoises, zeicher lemigdash kehillel, as a remembrance for what Hillel did in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. But that word v'omer shouldn't be there. And indeed, that would be kilashaina shas v'chala paiskim, like it says in the Gemara in Pesachim, and like the paiskim write. They don't say v'omer that you should say this. V'hai v'omer hu shitva the lishna, and this word v'omer was a slip of the tongue. It slipped in here to the text by mistake. The tzarich iyun, and the Chavetz Chaim says tzarich iyun. This needs to be delved into. What's behind this mechaber? That the mechaber says that you should say Zeichel Hamikdash Kehillel. No, it seems that our minig is to say Zeichel Hamikdash Kehillel. And indeed, Reb David Feinstein Zal Zayin Gesund writes in his Haggadah as well that the minig is to say Zeichel Hamikdash Kehillel. But certainly the Chavetz Chaim does seem to have a concern here. But again, our minig is that we do say it. Okay, we are up to the Mishnah Berurah, Eis Katan Chaf Aleph. So he said you make the Korech sandwich, you dip it in karoises, and you say Zeichel Hamikdash Kehillel, and then you eat it. Says the Mishnah Berurah Kehillel, v'hanuscha etzleinu b'Haggadah. The text that we have in the Haggadah is Kain asa Hillel bizman shebeis Hamikdash hayakayim. This is what Hillel was wont to do in the days of the Beis Hamikdash. Hayakorech matzah umaror. He would make a sandwich out of matzah and maror. He would wrap matzah and maror together. By the way, the word korech is a wrap. And I should point out that in the time of Hillel, it was a wrap. The way we have wraps. It was soft. They didn't have hard matzahs like we do. We struggle with the korech. We take two pieces of matzah, we shtup some maror between it. As soon as we start to bite it, it falls apart and it crumbles on us, and we're left holding together pieces in our hand and trying to eat it. They had a yummy, soft wrap. And that's why korech, they would wrap matzah and maror together. They need it together. The Yesha Kasvu, and there are those that write, this is a Taz and a Chayt Yaakov, there are those that write, that really what we should say is, Hayakarech Pesach Matzah Umaror, that they would take the basar, the meat of the carbon Pesach, and wrap it together with the matzah and the maror. Now this is the subject of a Machlokes Rishonim. Rambam says that Hillel did not eat the basar of the carbon Pesach together with the korech sandwich. He ate the basar of the carbon Pesach alone, and he had a sandwich of matzah and maror, or a wrap of matzah and maror. Rashi learns not that way. Rashi learns that Hillel would make a wrap out of matzah, maror, and the basar of the carbon Pesach. I always like to say by korech, according to Hillel, according to Rashi, so it was a delicious wrap. You had a shawarma wrap over here. You have lamb, you have roasted lamb, and romaine lettuce, and a nice soft laffa. So you have a delicious lamb wrap. But this is a Machlokes Rishonim, whether the Pesach was in the korech or not. Now it could be that even according to the Shitas that say that Hillel in the time of the Beis Hamikdash did put the basar of the carbon Pesach inside the korech wrap, still it would be inappropriate for us by the Seder to say Hayakorech Pesach Matzah Umaror, because we can't make a zecher for exactly what Hillel did. We don't have a carbon Pesach, so we don't have the availability to do Pesach Matzah and maror together. Eis Kanachav Beis v'Oichlan b'Yachad, and he would eat it together. Ayin le'el Sifkat and Tesh shekasavnu. If you earlier by Sifkat and Test we wrote She'ein tzarich levloya b'Yachad. We discussed this when we were talking about the eating of the kazayis of the matzah. You don't have to swallow the whole kazayis together. Rak lahachnisam b'fiu b'basachas. You should try to put the kazayis into your mouth at one time. V'hu adin hacha. The same halacha would apply here. And again, it seems a little bit difficult. How exactly are you going to take a korech sandwich of a kazayis of matzah and a kazayis of maror and get it into your mouth at the same time? And I reference again what the Rishivas Hatzal, what Rav Moshe wrote in the Igris, which is that you should eat kederech achila. You should eat it in a normal way. You shouldn't be forcing yourself to eat in an abnormal way. You eat the korech sandwich reclining ba'aseba because you have matzah in the korech sandwich. And again, this was the way Hillel was yotzeh the mitzvah of achilas matzah, and certainly the mitzvah of achilas matzah requires haseba. Oh, we didn't do that yet. Okay, now let's go back into the Shulchan Aruch. So by me, it's in the fourth line near the middle of the line. The Shulchan Aruch points out, umishabirach al achilas matzah, from the time that we make the bracha of al achilas matzah and the bracha of al achilas maror, lo yasiach bedavar, we should not be mafsik, we should not speak anything she'enoi me'inyan asuda, that is not integral to the suda, ad sheyochal kri chazu, until we eat the korech. Why? Kidei shetala birchas achilas matzah, birchas achilas maror, gam l'kri chazu. Because we want the brachas of alachilas matzah and alachilas maror to go on the korech. So in that case, we can't be mafsik between when we make the brachas until after we eat the korech. And again, by the seder, I always remind all the people sitting around the table beforehand, we're going to make the brachas of achilas matzah, achilas maror. We're going to have in mind that it goes on the korech as well. And we shouldn't be mafsik, we shouldn't interrupt, we shouldn't speak until we finish eating the korech. The truth is, I also find that it's a good thing, because now that you can't be mafsik and you can't be schmoozing, you can't just sit there and carry on a conversation while you're eating the matzah and the maror because of the brachas. It gives you the opportunity while you're eating the matzah to have in mind what you're doing, to have in mind that you're being yotza mitzvah seima daraisa. You're fulfilling the ratzon habayre who commanded you to eat a kazayis of matzah on Pesach night. You could also think about the lesson of the matzah. Matzah zu al shema, because with the geula came so fast that our dough didn't have time to rise. And that's a lesson that we have to remember. The geula could come like this. The Rabban Shalom could bring Mashiach now, right now, while you're listening to this cheer. You could hear tekiah, true tekiah, shvarm, true tekiah, and boom, it's time to go. That's how fast. It could all happen in an instant. We have to know that. And when we eat the maror, we also have to have in mind that merirus chas v'shalom, bitterness could come upon you very quickly. Anybody dreamed what we would be doing at this time, having these virtual shiurim and being stuck in your house and everything else? Merirus could come chas v'chalila very, very quickly. So we have a chance, because we can't be mafsik, we have a chance to think about what we're doing and have kavanah of what we're doing by the seder. Okay. So the Mishnah Berurah says, we're not mafsik so that the brachas of alachilas matzah and alachilas maror should go on the korech as well. Which the Shulchan Aruch wants to say, because we're doing this as a zecher, as a remembrance for what Hillel did in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. And then Hillel was yaitza the mitzvah of matzah and maror with the korech wrap. So we can't make a hefsek because the brachas would have to go on the wrap. Nevertheless, nowadays for us this is only a din lechatchila. If you are mafsik in dibur, if you are mafsik with speech between the brachas of alachilas matzah and alachilas maror and the eating of the korech, you don't have to make new brachas for the korech wrap, because again, we were yaitza the mitzvah of matzah when we ate the matzah. We were yaitza the mitzvah of maror when we ate the maror. The korech sandwich, the korech wrap that we're eating now is only a zecher. So while we would like the bracha to cover them, it's not a requirement. But the Evad, we wouldn't have to make new brachas. Zogt the Shulchan Aruch weiter Siv Beis. Let's say you're living in a very interesting time when there are suddenly shortages. Sound familiar? And it's hard for you to get produce. And you have a vegetable, but you're up to the beginning of the Seder, you're up to karpas, and the only vegetable that you have for karpas is the same vegetable that you're going to use for maror. Let's say all you have is romaine lettuce. You don't have another vegetable. So you have nothing to use for karpas except for the lettuce that you're going to use for the maror. So what do? Yevarech alav betibul rishain. When you get up to karpas, the first dipping, make a bracha of beire priha adama, like you always do by the karpas. But now comes a chiddush, and also you're going to make another bracha va'al achilas maror, and also make the bracha of al achilas maror. But like the Mishnah Berurah is going to say, when you eat the karpas, you should not have intent to be mekayim the mitzvah of maror. You're going to be mekayim the mitzvah of maror later on. Says the Shulchan Aruch, ubatibul hasheni, when you get up to maror, after Maitzi Matzah, when you get up to maror, to the second dipping, batibul hasheni, yitbolenu b'charoises. At that point, you'll take a piece of romaine lettuce and dip it into charoises, v'yoichlenu, and you'll eat it having in mind to be yoitza the mitzvah of maror, below bracha, without a bracha. So again, you're up to karpas, But unfortunately, really for karpas, you're supposed to use a vegetable that you cannot use for maror. I use potato. Potato you can't use for maror. So it's a vegetable. I also, by the way, use a piece of celery so that it should be green. My father's minig was to use a potato. Probably in Salish, that's what they had. They had a potato. But really, one of the requirements of karpas is it's supposed to be green. But I'm not going to stop the minig that my father had to eat a potato. So I eat a little piece of potato together with a little piece of celery. Celery seems to be perfect for karpas. It can be eaten raw. It's a Berurah adama, and it's green, and it's not usable for maror, so it fits the bill. So I use a little piece of potato and a little piece of celery. So, but this year you ran into a problem, and you don't have a potato. All you have is your romaine lettuce. You're not going to skip karpas, so you're going to make a Berurah adama and an alachilas maror, and you're going to eat your romaine lettuce by karpas. Then later on, you're going to have mitzi matzah. Then when you get up to maror, you're going to eat another piece of romaine lettuce, but you're going to dip it in charoisis. You're going to have in mind to be yotze the mitzvah of maror, but you're not going to make a new bracha because you already made the bracha earlier. Now let's look in the Mishnah Berurah so the Chavetz Chaim could explain to us how this works. What's the rationale for this? What's at play? Says the Chavetz Chaim. Im ein loy Yerokos, if you don't have any other vegetables, the lechatchila tzarich liyos karpas mimin she'ena mechameshes mine maror. Really, the vegetable that you use for karpas is supposed to be a different vegetable, not one of the 5 species that we listed earlier that you could use for maror. But you're stuck. You don't have. What do? You make a Berurah adama by karpas and an alachilas maror by karpas. Valachilas maror. Because you can't do what you do every other year. You can't go ahead and eat your romaine lettuce for karpas now without making an alachilas maror and only make your alachilas maror later after mitzi matzah. You can't do that. Why not? The achar shekvar mile kreisai mimenu. How could you fill yourself up? Mile kreisai means how could you fill up your stomach? How could you go fill yourself up with maror earlier in the seder by karpas without making a bracha? Now you can't make a bracha later on. In other words, you cannot take the same romaine lettuce, right, and eat it earlier in the seder by karpas without making a bracha of alachilas maror, and then later on, after mitzi matzah, take the same exact species of vegetable and now make a bracha of alachilas maror on it. You ate it earlier, you didn't make an alachilas maror then, so if it requires an alachilas maror, how do you eat it then without the alachilas maror? So you went ahead, you ate it then without a bracha, and now somehow you're going to make a bracha on it? Chavetz Chaim says you can't do that. That doesn't make any sense. He brings this down over here. It's Gemara. It's Gemara Psachim Kuftes Vav Amud Aleph. Okay. Therefore, what do you do now that you're stuck? Yevarech betchila alachilas maror. When you're ready to eat the karpas, make a hadama and an alachilas maror. Va'ochel mimenu ma'at l'shem karpas, and eat a little bit of the lettuce, having in mind to fulfill the requirement of karpas. But ve'ena yachal lecha l'shem mitzvas maror. But do not eat it, having in mind to become the mitzvah of maror. The lechatchila be'inan matzah v'hada maror, because maror is supposed to come after matzah. So don't eat that romaine lettuce by karpas, having in mind to become the mitzvah of maror. No, you can't do that, because that has to come after the matzah. Kidiksiv, like the pasuk says, al matzos umeroirim, matzah first and then maror. Nevertheless, habracha ein levatala. See, this bothered me, I remembered, when I learned this halacha. So what are you telling me? You're telling me that by karpas, I should make a bracha of alachilas maror, but I should not have in mind to become the mitzvah of maror. So then how am I making the bracha? Why isn't that a bracha levatala? Explains the Chavetz Chaim. When we call makom a bracha eino levatala, it's not a bracha levatala. Shemevarich isa, because you're making that bracha kedei lechal maror she'achar hamatzah. Having in mind, I make a bracha asher kedishanu b'mitzvos of etzivanu alachilas maror. Having in mind that yes, later in the seder after mitzi matzah, I'm going to eat maror to become the mitzvah of alachilas maror. Oh, but you'll tell me, but what are you talking about? You're going to make a bracha of alachilas maror by karpas on the mitzvah that you're going to be mekayim 2 hours later after the whole Haggadah and Hallel and everything else when you're finally up to maror? Why is it that a hefsek? Says the Chavetz Chaim, the Haggadah lo chashiv hefsek. The Haggadah does not constitute a hefsek. As long as you don't make any other hefsek. As long as you don't speak anything else. So if you're stuck in this situation, it comes out, you're not supposed to talk from the time that you make the bracha of alachilas maror by the karpas until after Motzi Matzah, until after Korech. When you finish with the maror, you shouldn't be mafsik b'dibur. The Haggadah is not a hefsek. Why is the Haggadah not a hefsek? Because that's me'inyan hasuda. You cannot eat maror before the Suda. It doesn't work that way because you can't eat maror before Motzi Matzah. And you can't do Motzi Matzah before Magid, before you go say the whole Haggadah. That's the Seder. We call it a Seder, right? There's an order to the mitzvahs tonight. We got to do Kadesh and Orchatz and Karpas and Yachas and Magid and Rochza and Motzi Matzah before we can get up to maror. So we got to do Magid. We got to say the Haggadah before we can do maror. So then saying the Haggadah does not constitute a hefsek, because it's a requirement in order for us to eat the maror. Interesting case. Until a few weeks ago, you would have said, am I really going to catch myself in a time when I'm going to have a shortage and I'm not going to have the right vegetable for karpas and maror? Believe me, there were plenty of people this year who didn't have the vegetables that they always had for them in Hagim. There were people who didn't have enough matzah. There were people who have shortages now that nobody ever dreamed we can have shortages of, right? Yeast, toilet paper, yogurt, cream cheese. The cream cheese plants are shut down. Everybody's cheesecakes for Shavuos. Guess what? I'm not sure if you're having cheesecake this Shavuos. You're going to find out that cheesecake is not a mitzvah say d'oraisa. When you're up to maror, when you're up to the second dipping, then you'll take a piece of romaine lettuce and dip it in charoises. Hainu achilas maror, the tibul sheni, the second dipping that the Shulchan Aruch is referring to is maror. Shachar kazayis matzah, that comes after Motzi Matzah. Yitbalena b'charoises. Then you'll dip your piece of lettuce in charoises. The kevin shemar zeh oichel kedei lekayim mitzvahs maror. Since now you're eating that lettuce to be mekayim to fulfill the mitzvah of maror, tzarich l'tavlei b'charoises. You have to dip it in charoises. Ukedin maror ba'alma, like the halacha always is with maror. V'tzarich lechol gam ken kazayis bitamzeh, and you're going to have to eat a kazayis. But ois katan chav ches b'li bracha. But you're going to eat that maror without making a bracha of alachilas maror. Sheyatza beberkas ber pri ha'adama of alachilas maror, sheberach alachilas maror harishona. Because in this crazy case, you were yotza the brachas that you made before the karpas. Before we always make the hadama on the karpas having in mind the maror. But now, in this funny case, you made the hadama and the achilas maror by the karpas. So now you don't need another bracha. Vedan, you should know, says the Chavetz Chaim, the harbe paiskim cholkim al zeh. Many paiskim disagree with this psak of the Shulchan Aruch. Well, they do it according to them. Tvei adif bazer lechavein ba'achilas maror harishona lekayim mitzvahs maror. Those opinions hold that you should have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah of maror when you do the first eating of the maror by the karpas. Kevin shemavarach asher kiddishanu, because that's when you're making the bracha of asher kiddishanu b'mitzvahs of alachilas maror. Ola did who, and according to them, chayiv lechol oz kazayis, you would be mechuyev to eat a kazayis of maror at the karpas, v'litbal b'charoises, and to dip it in charoises, kedin maror. Maror hasheni she'oichel b'loy bracha, and the later maror that you're going to eat after Motzi Matzah that you're going to eat without a bracha, hu l'shem karpas ba'alma. That's just like a zeicher. Ve'ena mechuyev lechol kazayis, and you don't have to eat a kazayis. Vein tzarich litbal gam ken davka b'charoises, and you don't have to dip it in charoises. U'b'chaimitz or mei melach nami sagi. You could dip it in chaimitz or mei melach. U'kedeleil b'sim tafayim gimel in karpas. Now we go to Siv Gimel. Again, I'm trying to make up some ground over here. I think after we complete what we're going to learn tonight, I think we're going to be only one day behind the Dirshu schedule. Siv Gimel. Bala matzah yotza. If you swallow matzah, so you took matzah, you put it in your mouth, and you swallowed it without chewing it up. You yotza the mitzvah. Avalim bala maror lo yotza. But by just swallowing maror, you are not yoytze the mitzvah of al-achilas maror. The tam maror be'inon, because maror is for the merirus. You need the bitter taste. Veleka, if you just swallow it without chewing it up, you never experience the taste. Va'afilu in bala matzah maror ke'echad, and even if you are to go ahead and swallow matzah and maror together at the same time, yedei matzah yotza, you would be yoytze the mitzvah of al-achilas matzah because you ate matzah. Yedei maror lo yotza, but you would not be mekayim the mitzvah of al-achilas maror because you had no taste of maror. Says the Mishnah Berurah Chav Tes. Bala matzah yotza. If you just swallow matzah, you're yoytze the mitzvah of al-achilas matzah b'di'evet. But this is a b'di'evet. The gamzeh mikri achila, because the Chavetz Chaim says just swallowing the matzah without even chewing it does constitute an act of eating. That is considered an achila. Even though you didn't chew it up and you never experienced the taste of the matzah. Now the Chavetz Chaim points out an interesting question. Earlier in Tav Samach Aleph, we said you cannot be yoytze the mitzvah of al-achilas matzah with cooked matzah. Why? Mishum denispatel tam matzah, because once you cook the matzah, it loses the taste of matzah. So we said over there in Tav Samach Aleph that you can't be yoytze the mitzvah when you didn't have the taste of matzah. So how are we saying now that you're going to be yoytze the mitzvah? Al matzarich tam matzah. So you're telling me that you do need the taste of matzah. So how come now over here we're saying you could swallow it without chewing it, and even though you did not experience the taste, you are yoytze the mitzvah? Yesh Shloima, the Chavetz Chaim says you could explain the hasam gara. Over there, when you cook the matzah, that's worse. Mishum dahapas ba'atzma ibda tam matzah, because in that case the matzah itself lost its taste. It's not just that you did not experience the taste. By cooking the matzah, you killed the taste of the matzah. This matzah no longer has tam matzah. So it's not matzah. You can't be yoytze the mitzvah by eating that matzah. Aval hacha, but in our case here, when you just took regular matzah and you just swallowed it down, aval hacha yesh ba tam. The matzah has the tam matzah. There's nothing wrong with it. It has the taste of the matzah. Ela shehu lo yirgish hatam b'fiv. The only thing is you didn't experience the taste, but it has the taste. However, you should know this is still a b'di'evet. Certainly, you're supposed to chew up the matzah and experience the taste in order to be mekayim the mitzvah. I have to point out over here, even though I'm pushing the clock, it says by the Afikomen, it says by the Chacham. What do you tell the Chacham? You tell him some of Hilchas HaPesach. What's the halacha you tell him? Ein maftirin achar HaPesach Afikomen. That we don't eat anything after the Afikomen. Why is that the halacha that you tell the Chacham? Of all the halachas of the Seder night, the halacha that we picked to tell the Chacham is that we don't eat anything else after the Afikomen. Why? Well, why don't we eat anything after the Afikomen? The reason we don't eat anything after the Afikomen is because we want the tam of the mitzvah, the taste of the mitzvah, should remain in your mouth. Rabbi say, a mitzvah has to have tam. A mitzvah has to have taste. You're supposed to be doing a batamta mitzvah. It has to be a mitzvah with tam, with taste, with richness, not a dry mitzvah without kavana. Like Rav Moshe used to say, a kalta mitzvah, a cold mitzvah. It has to be a varma mitzvah. And that's something, when we have a chacham, when we have a son who's sitting in front of us who's a chacham, he's somebody who could become a tabel chacham, somebody who has shaykhs to Torah. We want to teach him right away that mitzvahs have to have tam. Ois cotton lamed. So the Shulchan Aruch said, you could be yoytze the mitzvah of matzah just by swallowing matzah down, even though you're not going to experience the taste of the matzah. But you cannot be mekayim the mitzvah of maror just by swallowing maror down, because you have to experience the tam of maror. Says the Mishnah Berurah cotton lamed, the tam maror be'inon, because you need the taste of the maror. Sheyargish hamirirus b'fiv. You have to experience the bitter taste with your mouth. As a remembrance to Vayamaru Chayim, to the bitterness, how the Egyptians embittered us with the slavery. Ice cotton lamed aleph. The Shulchan Aruch said if you want to swallow matzah and maror together, yedei matzah yotza, you would fulfill the requirement. You would fulfill the mitzvah of achilas matzah. And we're not going to say that the taste of the maror is going to negate the matzah. The chanal b'sif cotton tezayin, which we did say earlier. Remember, earlier in today's shir, we said that nowadays you cannot be yotze the mitzvah of matzah and maror by eating korech alone, because the maror is a derabanan, the matzah is a daraisa. We can't have the taste of the maror, which is a derabanan, negate the taste of the matzah, which is a daraisa. And if you did so, you would not be mekayim the mitzvah of achilas matzah. Wait, so how are we saying over here? So over here, if you swallow the matzah and the maror together, why are we saying that you yotze the mitzvah of matzah and not the mitzvah of maror? Why doesn't the maror negate the matzah? Explains the Chafetz Chaim very simply. Because this whole concept of the maror negating the matzah doesn't apply. Only if you're going to chew it up and mix them together in your mouth. But if you're not chewing it up, you're not chewing it up, so they never got combined. The matzah remained distinct from the maror. You never chewed it up together. You just swallowed it down. Okay, now we go a little bit further in the Shulchan Aruch. By me, the middle of the third line in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch gives us another strange case. V'im karacham b'siv. Let's say you took the thin, not really the bark, it's really more of a film that's between the bark and the wood of the tree. There's like a the English word is I'm losing the English word. It's like it's like a paperish film, a thin. The word is on my tongue and it's not coming out. That's what it is. It's like a thin film. If you took that and you wrapped the matzah in this sieve, and you swallowed it, af yedei matzah lo yotza. Now you would not even be yotze the mitzvah of matzah, levi she'ein derech achila b'kach, because that's not an act of achila. That's not a way to eat things, to wrap up something and swallow it. That's not derech achila. And the mitzvah of matzah is achilas matzah. This does not constitute an achila. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut lamed beis besiv. He haklipa. This is like a film or a peel. Hagodel saviv hadekel, that grows around the wood of a palm tree. That's not a derech of achila. But if you would take the matzah and you would wrap it in something edible and swallow it that way, yotza, you would be yotza. Even though you have something separating between the matzah and your throat, because it's something edible. As long as it's something edible, that's derech achila. Derech achila b'kach. He brings that down for the Pri Chodesh. Okay, Siv Dalet. Achol matzah b'loy kavana. Let's say you ate matzah without any intent to be yotze the mitzvah of achilas matzah. Kegoin, for example, shanasuhu akum, that a non-Jew forced you to eat matzah. I listim, or robbers came and they forced you to go eat matzah. Lecha. You fulfill your obligation. Since you know that it happens to be the Pesach night, and you know that you have an obligation to eat matzah, so even though you ate it unwillingly, you're still yotze the mitzvah. But if he did not realize that it was Pesach, if he thought it's a regular Tuesday night, or they're forcing him to eat something, but he doesn't think that what he's eating is matzah, then lo yotza, then you do not fulfill your obligation. Says the Mishnah Berurah, cotton lamed aleph b'loy kavana. If you ate the matzah without any intent, says the Chafetz Chaim, v'avagav the mitzvah is tzrichas kavana k'del el b'siman samach siv dalet. Even though normally we assume that to fulfill your obligation of a mitzvah you have to have intent. The chol sheken haka de'ena roitza lecho, and it's even worse over here, because over here he didn't even want to eat. It's not only he didn't have intent to eat the matzah and be yotze the mitzvah, he did not want to eat. They forced him to eat. So certainly he had no kavanah to be yotze the mitzvah. So how is he yotze? Tirtzu HaMefarshim, the Mefarshim explained the b'midi da'achila, that when it comes to eating, sha'al karchai neh groinoi, where you against your will you derive benefit, you derive pleasure from the eating. Adif tvei ukemiskaven dummy. That makes it as if you had intent. There's a very nice footnote, footnote number 35. I don't want to take the time to read it inside, but basically what it says over there is, the explanation, I think he brings it down for the Shulchan Aruch Harav, is that normally we would say, if it's a mitzvah that has nothing to do with achila, so if you did the mitzvah without any kavana, there's no mitzvah there. But by achila, we can't say there's no mitzvah there, because physically you did derive hana from the physical act of the mitzvah. So we cannot negate the mitzvah entirely. We can't say it wasn't there. So since you were nene, you were yotzei the mitzvah. V'dan, you should know the kama poskim cholkin al zeh. Chavetz Chaim says many poskim disagree with this. With Sfira Lahu, they hold the lefi ma'id the kama the mitzvah strichas kavana. According to those opinions that to be mekayim a mitzvah you need intent. Ein lechalik be'midi da achila l'shar mitzvahs. You cannot draw a distinction between any other kind of mitzvah and a mitzvah that involves achila. And if you did the eating without having intent to be yotzei the mitzvah, you are not yotzei. V'chein pasak ha-pri chadash, and indeed that is the psak of the pri chadash. You ate it without intent. For instance, a non-Jew forced you to eat it. Certainly, if a Yid forced you to eat it, a Yid forced you to eat the matzah. Yid stumbled upon you on the Seder night, and he saw that you're not eating matzah. He said, what's the matter with you? You're not eating matzah? Guy says, I don't want to eat matzah. So he forced you to eat matzah. You're zicha yotzei the mitzvah.